When a family packs up and moves across the world, almost everything changes: the schools, the culture, even the language. But there's one thing that often stays exactly the same: how we parent. And that, right there, is often where the trouble begins. So let's get into why this happens and what we can actually do about it.
Okay, so this brings us to a huge question that every parent needs to ask themselves, especially if you're raising kids in a new country. Really think about it. Are you preparing your child for the world they actually live in right now? Or are you trying to protect them from it based on the world you grew up in?
And here's the thing: kids, they are incredibly adaptable. They just soak up their new environment like sponges. But parents, we often drag our old baggage with us. Old fears, old ways of doing things, and really old ideas about what success is supposed to look like. And this clash between our old habits and their new reality is where so much of the friction comes from. To make this super clear, let's look at a real-world story that just perfectly illustrates this exact problem.
So let's meet Manoj and Deepa. They're a family who moved from Bengaluru in India all the way to the UK. And like so many families, they were filled with hope for what the future would hold for their child. But the thing is, once they landed, their parenting style got way more intense. All of a sudden, fear and uncertainty kind of took over. It became all about constant monitoring, nonstop reminders about homework, and being involved in every single tiny detail of their child's life. They were trying to build this little bubble of control because the world outside felt so new and unpredictable. And the result? Well, it was the exact opposite of what they wanted. Their child, who was now living in a culture that rewards independence, started to develop anxiety, became way too dependent on them, and really struggled with low confidence. And this is so key. The child didn't fail. The parenting style failed to match the new world. And this story perfectly sets up our first big idea, one of two common paradoxes for migrant families, which is the well-intentioned but often really damaging trap of overprotection.
Just look at this slide for a second. It lays out the conflict so clearly. On one hand, you have parents who grew up in systems like India's CBSE system, where obedience, control, and getting good marks were everything. But on the other hand, they've put their kids into these global classrooms that reward the complete opposite. Things like initiative, speaking up for yourself, and even taking risks. The very things their parenting style is accidentally crushing.
And I mean, think about it. Nobody ever says this out loud, but all that micromanaging, solving every little problem for them, stepping in with every teacher, it all sends one really powerful and, frankly, confidence-destroying message to a child. You can't do this without us. And this is where things get so lost in translation, right? A parent truly believes they're saying, "I'm pushing you because I love you." But what the child hears is just a storm of pressure. All they hear is, "Don't you dare fail. Don't you dare embarrass us. And don't you dare waste the massive sacrifice we made to get here." So what's the big takeaway here? These kids often end up underperforming, not because they aren't smart, but because they are absolutely terrified to even try. They're scared to raise their hand, scared to be wrong, scared to stand out. It's the fear that holds them back, not a lack of ability. Okay, but it's not just about being too strict. Let's flip the coin over, because the opposite extreme, giving total freedom with zero structure, can be just as big of a problem. Let's call it the freedom paradox. So then you've got the total opposite approach. Parents influenced by more progressive systems who are all about trusting the child, encouraging their voice, and making sure they're happy. And hey, on the surface, this sounds great. You get confident, articulate kids. But look at the hidden problems. Without any real structure, it can lead to a total lack of perseverance, an inability to handle any real pressure, and pretty much zero accountability. And this is a really big deal for kids who are always on the move. They get really good at adapting on the surface, but deep down, they can often feel rootless. They're like emotionally adrift, without deep connections to any one place or culture. It leaves them constantly wondering, where do I actually belong? And that brings us to this really powerful idea. A child might seem super confident. They might speak well and act mature. But if they completely crumble at the first sign of failure or rejection, well, that confidence is shallow. It's like a brittle shell. It looks good, but it cracks under the slightest pressure. So if being too strict is a problem and being too lenient is also a problem, what on earth are you supposed to do? Well, the solution isn't about picking a side. It's about finding a conscious global balance. This framework here really lays it out. It's about combining the best of both worlds. You absolutely need that secure emotional connection, and you need clear boundaries. You need to give them independence and teach them that it's okay to fail. And, so importantly, you need to give them cultural roots to anchor them while also preparing them for a global future. And if there is one single thing you take away from all of this, let it be this quote. Your job isn't to run ahead and clear every single obstacle from your child's path. Your job is to give them the skills, the resilience, and the confidence to navigate whatever road they end up on. Look, at the end of the day, nobody's a perfect parent. That's not the goal. The goal is to be an aware parent, to know when you need to loosen the reins and trust your child, and when you need to lean in and provide more structure. It's about making conscious choices, not just running on autopilot. And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. In a world where our kids can be from anywhere and, in a way, belong everywhere, who are they really? And how do we help them build an identity that is both strong and rooted, but also flexible and ready for the world? Now, that's a question worth thinking about.